so much energy that comes when we welcome new members into our community like we did this morning, and like we're doing this morning as we are continuing to grow and evolve and expand, and just looking at the bright lights shining. It's complete inspiration. As you know, I've been doing a practical prayer podcast. It's a weekly thing. We're closing in on week 80. And the big lesson that I learned was from very early on when my co-host asked me, what's the difference between a practical prayer and a regular prayer? And I realized that I didn't really know enough about regular prayer. And it turns out that in a regular prayer, you ask God for something, and God says yes or no. And if the answer is no, then it's because God didn't want you to have it. And the way that we teach practical prayer is that God always says yes. That infinite creative power that creates everything always says yes. It is done unto us as we believe. So if we say that we want a new car, but we don't believe that we deserve a new car, then we are going to get not a new car, because we don't believe that we deserve a new car. And that brings up the whole notion of blame and blaming God for what we don't have. And it really makes life much simpler, much easier to deal with. If I'm not getting the things that I want, it's because God doesn't want me to have it. So it's completely out of my control. It's up to a capricious God to decide whether I deserve something or not. So the topic today is giving up blame. And by the way, it's not just blaming God or Jesus or some external power for the things we don't have. It's giving up blame for everything. Here's why. Here's why it's great to give up blame. So something happens and we don't like it and we consider it to be bad. And then we say, well, that's because, and maybe it's because my boss is a jerk, or maybe it's because I don't have enough money, or maybe it's because I learned something improperly when I was a kid, so my parents are to blame, or it's some trauma that I have from the past, so that's to blame. Well, that all might be true. That all could very well be true. And when we're blaming whatever it was that was the cause of the problem, we are implicitly accepting the problem and agreeing with it. So stop doing that. Just stop doing that. Because when we talk about the blame, when we talk about the problem, we keep our focus on the problem, we're going to get more problem. Remember back at the beginning, I said the answer to the prayer is always yes. If my prayer is, I am tired of being sick and tired, and I don't want to have this illness, and I don't want to have these challenges and these struggles, all I'm talking about is challenges and struggles and illness and difficulty, and that infinite creative power is saying yes to everything that I am talking about. So what I need to do, and you've heard this before, what I need to do is pivot. To turn away from the problem, and instead of blaming the problem or blaming what I perceive to be the cause of the problems, to embrace the problem. Say, okay, this is the next step in my path. And in order for me to move from the path that I've been on that's brought me to this point right here and now, and move in a different direction, I'm going to have to change something. I get to let go of the blame. I get to let go of whatever that circumstance or condition has been that led me to this level of dissatisfaction, and step out in a new direction. And when I set the intention for that newness to come into my life, for a job where my boss and my colleagues appreciate me and treat me with respect, for a situation where I have plenty of money to meet all of the expenses and save and to share and to just be in that experience of prosperity, when I turn my attention to that, and I invite that, then that creative power that says yes to everything is saying yes to what it is that I'm looking for, that I'm seeking in my life. Well, what if God doesn't want you to have it? Aren't there some things that are not okay with God, that God doesn't want you to do, God doesn't want you, ways that God considers to be bad behavior? Maybe. Maybe yes, maybe no. Because you were born with a moral compass. You know what's right and what's not right. So that's kind of built in. And By the way, I've done some sketchy things in my life that if I had them to do again, I would do differently. And in some of them, I can see that almost instant karma that happened when I did something sketchy and something sketchy was done unto me, because that's the world that we live in. So that divine creative power that creates everything, that created each of us, created us with that moral compass, with that understanding of what is ethical, what is reasonable, what is just behavior for us. And when we get into alignment with that, especially when we dig into it and find out what it really means to us, then we are acting the way that we would say that the divine would want us to act. And when we get out of harmony with that, when we get into an imbalance with that, then it's an internal job. It's inside of us, and we're bringing that. We're bending the rules, and that way we are looking at the universe and the world around us as one in which those rules can be bent, and they'll wind up getting bent back on us. So, is there anything that God needs you to do? Nope. This is me with a simple answer. What God needs you to do is be you. That is your job here on planet Earth for the time that you have. You are here to be you. Is there something that you can do that will anger God, that will make God unhappy with you? Nope. Nope. You've heard the term unconditional love. Sometimes it's about parents with the unconditional love of their kids. Well, there are times when my kids have gotten me just like fed up to here, and it's really difficult to find the love. Unconditional love is one of those idealistic things of being love all the time, and that is true of God. That divine creative power that creates everything is sharing itself as its creation. That is unconditional love. It's us as that divine presence in every moment. And you've been in a relationship with somebody, I'm sure, where you know how to push their buttons. You can say something and make them angry. Well, if I can push somebody's buttons and make them angry, then who's in charge of the relationship? That would be me. And if I could do something that's going to make God angry, then who's in charge of the relationship between me and God? That would be me. Now, I'm going to suggest the use of the word arrogant. If I think that I can decide when God is going to be angry or not, that puts me in control of the relationship with God, and I just don't believe that's the way it works. I believe that we can stop blaming God, follow our moral compass, understand that the answer is going to be yes, and then get real clear about who we are, what we're bringing, what we're seeking, what we're looking for, and dump the baggage, dump the false beliefs, dump the negativity that has kept us in those limitations. Are there still going to be problems that come up? Yeah, there are going to be problems. But as soon as we take those problems as an invitation to consider something new, to invite in an experience that we would describe as better, as soon as we stop blaming the problem, we open up that new possibility. So, that's a nice intention to set for today and for this week. I invite you to join me in it, to give up blame, to open to new possibilities, to do a little bit of that surrendering and letting go, and invite in something spectacular, because you deserve it. You deserve it. And so it is.